The first time I played Mega Man, I was in the 7th grade. I remember taking my allowance and getting on my bike and heading down to Byron Video, a local video rental store that was within my 7th grade biking distance and the only place I knew that rented Nintendo games. It's like it was yesterday, standing in front of all those NES games, trying to make a choice based on box art alone right in front of me. There it was, my selection. That beautiful Capcom grid pattern, and a futuristic castle with a figure that looked like he might be from, well, something. Even though the box art itself wasn't the greatest, I chose a game called Mega Man. The game came in the then standard clear NES rental case with photocopied instructions. I couldn't pedal fast enough to get home with my latest adventure. Little did I know that this game would be life-changing. The story of Mega Man 2 begins with the legendary game developer Capcom. Now, in the beginning, the IRM Corporation was founded on May 30th, 1979 by Kenzo Sugimoto. IRM and its subsidiary, Japan Capsule Computers Corporation Limited, were both devoted to the manufacture and distribution of electronic game machines. The two companies had a name change to Sanby Corporation Limited in September of 1981, and on June 11, 1983, Sugimoto established Capcom Corporations Limited. The name Capcom comes from Capsule Computers. Capcom's first venture into the arcades was in 1984 with a top-down shooter named Vulgus. The next arcade game Capcom would release would be a World War II shooter named 1942 that was released in 1984. In 1985, they would follow up with Ghosts and Goblins and Commando, and were making a mark both in the Japanese and American arcade markets. By 1985, it was time they ventured into the ever-growing home console market with a port of their arcade hit 1942 in December of 1985 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Capcom released hit after hit with ports of Commando and Ghosts and Goblins. In 1986, Capcom would release a port of Legendary Wings from the arcade and a sequel to their World War II shooter 1943 in 1987. They also ventured into Disney territory, taking on Mickey Mouse and Mickey Mousecapade, and an action platformer by Akira Kitamura simply called Mega Man. Capcom wanted a brand new IP designed specifically for the NES, and Akira Kitamura was the perfect fit. Before we start with Mega Man 2, we have to talk about its predecessor and the two creators, Akira Kitamura and Keiji Inafune. Akira Kitamura was an artist at Capcom whose previous work included Section Z as the game designer and the character designer for Legendary Wings. Kitamura created the original static pixel art for Mega Man and is often credited as the father of the character, along with Keiji Inafune, who illustrated and refined the design on paper. Inafune has often said that the creation of the character of Mega Man was like, quote, a reverse character design, where usually the drawing or sketch of the character comes first. Mega Man's creation was the opposite. Kitamura would later go on to be the character designer and planner for Mega Man 2 and game designer for Willow on the NES. He would then leave Capcom and help form Takeru, where he would direct a game called Coco Run for the Famicom that was very similar to Mega Man. He also assisted in creating a game called Little Samson, which was a game designed by Takeru for publisher Taito in an attempt to battle Mario and Sonic in the great mascot wars of the early 1990s. Keiji Inafune's first game was a one-on-one fighter called Street Fighter, where he was the graphic designer in 1987. He was also the character designer on Mega Man 1 and 2. Inafune would continue being involved with pretty much every Mega Man game out there, producing, being a character designer, and writing. Even though these two legends are highlighted as the stars of Mega Man, Akira Kitamura stated, and I quote, Mega Man was developed in a different, special way. It wasn't made according to one mastermind's whims. It was a melting pot of ideas from different people. I think that also helps explain its appeal. With Mega Man 1, Kitamura set out to create a game that could be cleared in about an hour, and a game that people would want to play over and over again. He created an action platforming game where the player would be able to choose any level they wanted to go to at any time and in any order. The enemies you'd face would be in clusters of the same kind of enemy. They would gradually get more difficult, and at the end of the stage, you'd fight against the level's boss in an arena combat setting. The reward for beating the boss would be the ability to use the Robot Master's power for your very own. An idea that I still think is one of the best in gaming today. The character of Mega Man, or Rockman as he's known in Japan, ended up being very different from the character that we know today, both in name and the way he looks. Before they settled on the name Mega Man, there were a few floating around such as Mighty Kid, Knuckle Kid, and my personal favorite, Rainbow Battle Kid. Now, Rainbow Battle Kid was based on the fact that Mega Man would actually change colors depending on which Robot Master's weapon was equipped. Thankfully, those were all scrapped, and in Japan, he was known as Rockman. North America, they simplified it. They found Rockman might be a little too confusing and just settled with Mega Man. Another design choice that was changed was originally the hero of the game was going to be Cutman. Kitamura imagined Cutman going through the stages, taking down the obstacles and enemies with the scissor located on his head. As cool as Cutman was, ultimately I'm very glad that they went with the little blue bomber. Kitamura started imagining more and more Robot Masters, and that the hero would absorb the powers of the bosses and be capable of using them against enemies and future bosses. Each boss would be vulnerable to another boss's power, and the player would have to figure out which power to take down each boss character. This method was inspired by the popular game Rock, Paper, Scissors. Blue was the chosen color for our hero for no other reason than the Famicom's color palette had more shades of blue than any other color, and they really wanted the hero character of Mega Man to stand out. He has a very strong resemblance to a 1950s anime character and is very much inspired by Astro Boy. Mega Man was released on December 17, 1987. The game sold fairly well, but was not the hit that Capcom had hoped. One reason the game might have not sold so well in North America, and this is just pure speculation, is based on the box art. This, for the most part, is what sold the game on store shelves. While the Japanese box art was done by Inafune, the North American was changed much like many Japanese games being sold in North America at the time. Because the game was being released in Japan and US at the exact same time, that gave Capcom USA very little time to design the art for the cover. The president of Capcom USA said to his marketing department, "We need a cover done tomorrow." As the legend goes, he got, quote, a friend of his to do it in just 6 hours. Well, the results are infamous, and they speak for themselves. So how do we get to Mega Man 2? With sales of the original Mega Man not great, the only way this sequel was going to get greenlit was that the development team, led by Inafune, had to keep working on other projects which left little time. So Keiji and the team worked on Mega Man 2 on their own time. Inafune knew if the game could be refined, it would be a hit for Capcom. This would include expanding on the level design, the story, and more dynamic boss encounters. Mega Man 2 was directed by Akira Kitamura and released in Japan on December 24th, 1988, and North America in June of 1989. Mega Man 2 was developed in just 4 short months, and Capcom ran their first boss character contest. The contest saw a total of 8,370 entries. It was an art contest that decided the 8 robot masters that would appear in the game. Inafune would redesign or touch up any of the art as he saw fit. 10 participants received staff-only jackets, 100 received Rockman original soundtracks on cassette tape, and 500 received seals. As the contest was going on, Capcom developers went on ahead and started designing the levels. When the boss entries were accepted and refined, they would be stuck into the level to best suit their powers. Keeping with their goals, the development team did expand on the story. After Dr. Wily's defeat at the hands of Mega Man in the first game, he creates his own set of robot masters in an attempt to get revenge on Mega Man and Dr. Light. The memory of Mega Man 2 was doubled and sitting at 256 kilobytes. This, compared to the first game that only had 128 kilobytes, meant that there could be more dynamic level design and allowed for up to 8 bosses to be created instead of the first game's 6. The 8 main boss characters in Mega Man 2 include Airman, Quickman, Heatman, Woodman, Metalman, Flashman, Bubbleman, and Crashman. We touched on earlier that Mega Man 2 had been refined and that there were a number of quality of life changes added. There are quite a few additions and differences between Mega Man 1 and 2. First off, the scoring system from the first game is completely taken out of Mega Man 2. The difficulty was dropped quite a bit and you can actually choose your difficulty. There are 2 difficulties in the North American version, normal and difficult. The difficult selection is in fact just the standard version of Rockman 2 in Japan. A password system was added so you could take a break when needed and continue from the last level beat. E-tanks were also introduced that filled your health up completely. You could carry a total of 4 of these. Health and ammo for your sub-weapons also drop much more frequently. 3 utility items were added to the game and gave Mega Man new ways to tackle the levels. The Wily stage bosses were also bigger and more colorful and exciting. Mega Man is known for its cast of amazing characters, rock-solid gameplay, and replayability. But there's one thing for me that is equally as important as all of those above, and that is the music. Capcom is known for having incredible scores in their games, and Mega Man 2 definitely leads the charge. Mega Man 2 has some of the most iconic music in gaming history, and that is due to composer Takashi Tatishi, with credit given to Manami Matsume for reuse of her Mega Man ending theme for the title screen and having contributed to creating Airman's stage theme, bars 18 through 26 to be exact. The switch from Manami to Takashi was that Manami had been moved to the arcade division of Capcom, which at the time was more of a prestigious position. Because of this, Mega Man 2 needed a new composer, and that was found in Takashi. He produced some of the most pulse-pounding tracks not just for a Mega Man game, but for any game in history. Mega Man 2's score is still celebrated today and is often seen as one of the top gaming soundtracks ever created. And I couldn't agree more. Just listen to it. Capcom's Mega Man 2 North American box art was done by legendary illustrator Mark Erickson. Mark has cemented himself as one of the greatest gaming illustrators in gaming history with cover art that includes Tengen Tetris for the NES, Herzog's Vi for the Sega Genesis, Zybots for the Atari Lynx, and Bad Dudes for the NES, just to name a few. So then why does Mega Man look so off? And why is he holding a pistol? We were lucky enough to catch up with Mark and interview him for our documentary Nintendo Quest.
They would play a beta version of the game for me. And I meant physically they would play it because I'm not a gamer. I'm just an illustrator. And over a period of about 30 or 40 minutes, we would just arrive at what they wanted me to do. The famous Mega Man 2 incident was about the only thing sticks in my mind where they just led me in the wrong direction and had me do a piece of art that wasn't correct. Amazingly, the people that hired me to do the art and the art director, neither one of them knew the game, and we ran the beta version as I described to you, and nobody could see the little character well enough to know he had a cannon for an arm, and long story short, you know, they told me to put a pistol in there, and that's what I did.
Ah well, maybe they'll get it right by the 3rd game? All that aside, you cannot deny that the North American Mega Man 2 box art is still one of the most recognizable out of all the Mega Man games. To say that Mega Man 2 was a smash hit will be a complete understatement. In total, Mega Man 2 sold 1.51 million copies worldwide. That puts it second only to Mega Man 11, which sold 1.60 million units. That makes Mega Man the fourth best-selling series Capcom has, just under Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, and Resident Evil. Publication-wise, Mega Man 2 was everywhere. It donned the cover of Nintendo Power Issue 7 from July-August 1989. And on page 8, we have some incredible detailed maps on the entire game. Game Players Issue 2 from June-July 1989 featured Mega Man 2 on page 10 as part of their Hot Games in Japan Coming to Us section. Wow, I remember this awesome shot of Wily's castle. The legendary game magazine Electronic Gaming Monthly featured Mega Man 2 on the cover of issue number 1 from May of 1989. It would be part of their Next Wave section on page 8 and featured in their Preview 89 section on page 27. Mega Man 2 would be reviewed in issue 2 of Electronic Gaming Monthly from July of 1989. It would get 4 8s from the reviewers Steve, Ed, Don, and Jim. Steve's review reads as follows. Mega Man 2 is one of the best games I've played in a long time. It has the perfect blend of action and surprise that is usually seen only in games like Super Mario. The first Mega Man was a sleeper hit, but this one is even better with plenty of new enhancements. Highly recommended. The sequel to Mega Man is a tale of passion, hard work, and believing in your vision. From a game that almost never was to one of the greatest the gaming industry has ever seen. A game that can be picked up now and is just as fun as it was in 1989. They really don't make them like this anymore. Thank you for watching the history of Mega Man 2.